Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Let me know what you think about the stories in the comment section below. And now, onto the stories. The first story is called How to Get Rid of a Problem Employee. Years back, I worked for a large bank in the UK. We all worked on the same floor and in the same department, but with different teams. I was just passing through on secondment and saw the beginning of this revenge. What was filled in on the aftermath later. One of the teams was won by a woman called Sarah. Sarah was by many measures a good manager, but she had a blind spot. That blind spot was a woman called Helen. Now, when I was in my previous role, I interacted with Helen a fair bit and she seemed friendly. But when it came to actually working with her, she was a nightmare. She'd tattle, steal ideas and credit, and generally throw you under the bus at any opportunity. I'm not sure why Sarah always protected her, but it soon became a sore point for most people on the floor who had to deal with her. Enter Mike, who was the manager of a smaller team. Mike could be a bit of a jerk, but was still professional and fun to work with. At some point, I found out I was being made redundant. And even though he wasn't my manager, he heard about it and booked time out to help me with my CV and do interview practice. Shortly after, it was announced that Mike's smaller team was being dissolved and the staff either made redundant or moved to other teams. At the time of the cuts, the economy in the UK was in a bad state and all the banks were looking for efficiencies. He was redeployed and took the vacant manager role under Sarah that Helen wanted. To make matters worse, Helen now reported directly to him. Helen was furious and spent no time in making her discontent known as she felt she was entitled to the promotion. Unfortunately for her, Mike was wise to her. They both joined the company around the same time and so he knew exactly what she was like. He even had her blame him for her mistakes before. Even the projects she'd gotten so much praise for had been work one of his staff had done. So he started the process of documenting her poor work and attitude to manage her out of the business. Sarah, however, would not allow it. Helen was a high performer in her eyes and she wouldn't sign off on him getting rid of her. When I left the team, Mike was frustrated with her and wasn't sure what to do. I met up with Mike a year later and he shared how he'd solved the Helen problem with me because he knew all of the issues I'd had with her. Because Sarah had his hands tied, his only other option to get Helen out of the team was for her to leave on her own accord. He couldn't oust her by making her life difficult or she just go to Sarah, so he went the other way. He sat through every performance meeting with her for the rest of the year, gritting his teeth and praising her. That then justified him giving her a really high performance rating. He also used his own contacts to find roles in other teams at his grade that he then talked up to Helen. These roles were specifically selected because they had specialized in one of the things Helen claimed she was an expert at, but had very little real experience in. Basically roles where he knew she had the highest chance of messing up. Eventually, she applied for one and he spent several weeks coaching her for the interview. In the company at the time, the interviews were scored off of three main factors: the performance rating in the current role, competency-based interview results, and relevant experience. He'd done everything he could to make her shine in all three. She took the promotion and within 2 months had quit. He knew she wasn't ready for the responsibility, didn't have the skills, and her poor work ethic would be exposed. And the worst case would be that she'd get her act together and he'd still look like the perfect manager to Sarah. The next story is called You Threatened My Job? This happened last year. I was about 6 months into a food service job at the time. I worked in my university's cafeteria, prepping and serving food to the students. After closing, I took about 45 minutes to finish cleaning up my station and took another 10 to finish up one of my coworkers' sections that she needed a bit of help with. My supervisor had left just after closing to God knows where, leaving the rest of us to our devices as he usually did. He was more the watch and rule type. After I had finished, I took a quick 5-minute trip to the bathroom, as I usually did around this time every day. As I happily walk to the back to assist in helping the others finish so we could all leave, I hear a cough behind me. The sound of the calm before the storm. I ignore it, thinking nothing of it, and go on my way. I hear a more abrupt and I stop and turn on my heel to meet the shift supervisor's cold gaze, his hands crossed over his puffed chest in his regal stance. I give him a questioning look as he looks on, expecting me to read his mind. "Half an hour?" he asks calmly, but with a sour tinge to his tone. I was confused, and I chuckled a bit. Huh? This was apparently the worst thing I could have done. "You were in the bathroom for half an hour?" he yelled, stomping his royal foot. I was taken aback as he had never come at me with a sideways tone before. I thought we were cool, but I should have known better, seeing how he treated my coworkers. I was so shocked I just stood there, staring at him like he grew 3 horns. I didn't feel the need to defend myself at the moment. "Do you like your job?" he demanded from me. I did not, in fact, like my job. I had trouble holding back my smile at this though, as he yelled some more things I don't remember as my ears had gone numb to his screeching at this point. I knew he had no power to fire me, and I hadn't even seen his mug for the past hour. I knew his words had no consequence. I had nothing to say to his tantrum, and as soon as he realized that, he dismissed me. I have trouble egging people on when they are being so irrational, so generally I stay quiet and let them get out of their baby fit. I quickly went back to my work and started scheming about how I could get back at this man. Over the next week, I compiled photo evidence of him slacking on the job and serving undercooked food. I also gathered statements from my coworkers about their individual experiences where he ridiculed or threatened them, and I took it straight to my boss that Friday. I laid out all of my evidence and my personal encounter, which I would be able to check the cameras and identify both of our whereabouts that day, and could see who truly was off duty for a half an hour. I didn't think much would come of it, as I was a relatively new worker. And honestly, I didn't care about anything that happened to that place. I let it slip from my mind for the weekend. The next Monday, I come in before most and start setting up. After a while, the general manager comes out of the back with the supervisor, following her like a puppy, staring at his feet. He walks sheepishly up to me and invites me to sit with them at one of the tables in the cafeteria. He admits to me that he was in the wrong, shouldn't have yelled at me like that, should be a better leader, and is super duper sorry. I sat there with the biggest grin on my face as he practically growled at my feet, begging for forgiveness as his boss watched on. This man that sat so high on his horse for the past 6 months. I watched on in celebration as he then apologized to each of my coworkers individually. Not but a week later, he was demoted to a backroom cook, and I had been given the role of the shift supervisor. We never had a problem after that, and he was a generally okay guy. I hope he really did learn his lesson and didn't say all those things just to get it over with. Either way, this was the sweetest revenge of my life. I have since quit that job and work for a company with people who actually know how to respect others as individuals, whether their position is below or above them. The last story is called $50,000 Revenge. This story happened around 6 years ago. I applied for a job as a bar manager at a new resto bar that opened up in my area in Canada. The owner of this bar had some issues with her liquor license being revoked at a previous establishment. There was some sort of stipulation where she was required to not be on-site or involved in the business in any capacity for any reason. She also needed to hire a manager with at least 5 years of experience and a smart service certificate to run and be responsible for the bar in order to get another license. After a short interview process, I was offered the job and was told of these terms. I accepted them, despite the already apparent red flags. I was a very poor student. When the restaurant/bar opened, everything quickly fell apart. Despite the owner not being allowed to be on premise, she proceeded to micromanage both the kitchen and the front of the house. She stopped scheduling kitchen staff to save money and was working in the kitchen herself. Food quality plummeted, customers became irate at how long of a wait it was, and word spread quickly in the small town. Eventually, a select few regulars became our only customers. Our hours got cut. Waitresses and kitchen staff were let go. The owner was now drinking at the bar and at the same time was waitressing and cooking. This was all in the matter of a month. One night that month, it was exceptionally nice out and we had a lot of boaters in the area. We had a pier near the bar where boats could dock and the people could walk into the restaurant. A large group had walked in on this night and they were both very clearly underage and very clearly drunk. I immediately cut them off, to which they made a very large stink about it. It was enough that the owner's husband came over to ask what happened. I explained that I had cut the group off and wasn't going to serve them. The owner's husband decided to take the drink orders and serve them anyway. Obviously, money was tight, so they didn't care about the rules. The next day, the owner pulled me into the office and accused me of stealing $50 out of the till the night before. I knew this was a lie that could be easily disproven because there's a camera located directly above the till that is synced to the timecode on the POS. Still, I was fired on the spot. I 100% believe this was because I was refusing to serve customers and thereby damaging their bottom line. I was really miffed to be accused of doing something I didn't do, and more upset that she used this lie she made up as an excuse to fire me. Because the stipulation of her having her liquor license was me working at the bar as a manager, I emailed the liquor control board when I got home. I informed them of the rules being broken at the bar. An inspector came to meet me later that week and took a statement. He then paid a surprise visit to the bar and was able to witness all of the things that I informed him, including the owner both being on site and being involved in the business, serving underage people. The inspector slapped them with a large fine, north of $50,000. The liquor license was suspended and the owner was too broke to pay the fine and was forced to close the restaurant. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content. And if you got to this point, please leave a penguin in the comment section so I know that you heard all of the stories. Have a great day. Bye bye.